Hello, welcome. This is Allie Schneider here, manager at Merriman Market Analyst. I'm joined today by Raymond Merriman, author of Forecast 2024, president of Merriman Market Analyst, the person who you hear from every Friday evening in the Free Weekly Forecast. And today we're here to talk about his new book he's working on, the annual publication of Forecast 2024. So Ray, welcome. Thank you for joining me today so we can spend a few minutes and talk about what you're writing so far. So I
Right,
wanted to
good
kick
idea.
today off and share something interesting. First question I have for you about the book is, how many years have you been writing the forecast book? Like, how many forecast books have you done so far?
The first one I wrote in late 1975, and it was on 1976. So this will be the 48th year and the 48th forecast book. Has not missed a year since 1975, 76.
That's a lot of books. And why do you think that you are qualified to write these books? Why do you keep going? What makes you have this special knowledge that, makes you the person to keep writing this annual publication?
Because I'm a Capricorn. No, really.
That's all.
Well, I think my background lends itself to this task. My background is in financial market analysis, and my published research studies on the correlation of cycles, market cycles, to geocosmic cycles. I've been a CTA since 1982, which is what, 42 years, which means I'm a commodity trading advisor. So I've been in the business a long time. I published the first book on the quantitative relationship, on the quantitative analysis showing the relationship between cycles in the gold market and geocosmic cycles. Nobody else had published anything showing the correlation of planetary cycles to market cycles in any market. I mean, they did sun-moon cycles, but I did planetary cycles. And then in 1997 to 2012, I spent 16 years writing 1,600 pages in a 5-volume series known as the Ultimate Book on Stock Market Timing, where I went back and looked at every day of the Dow Jones Industrial Averages since 1928. And I showed the correlation of long-term cycles, intermediate-term cycles, short-term cycles, very short-term cycles. So I think this type of research and the fact that I've been writing the MMA Cycles report for over 40 years establishes me as somebody qualified to continue the rich tradition of yearly almanacs that started in the Middle Ages. And it ended in the 1600s, and I think I've resurrected it again in the 1900s. Yes, there were periods of time in between there where almanacs were written by English authors, but I think what I've done here since 1975, 76 has reestablished this ancient tradition of astrological almanacs.
So you think you're qualified to write this book?
Yes.
Is anyone else writing books like this?
Now there are. Back
Okay.
then, there might have been 1 or 2 people, but now you see several people writing yearly almanacs since probably the internet social media revolution, probably at the end of the first decade of this century. A lot of books are being written since 2008, 2009 on forecast, but I think we've established ourselves as a brand in this niche.
I think so. I mean, if you've been doing this for almost 40 years, almost 4 decades,
Yeah, almost 50 years,
couple
50
couple
years
of
and 2 years.
thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of these books have ended up in the right people's hands. So you're qualified. You passed.
And don't forget, I mean, it's written in other languages too. I mean, we have the English edition, but there's also the German, the Chinese,
Right.
the Japanese, the Dutch. There are other editions in other languages. And we know from experience that if we sell one book, probably 3 people are going to read it. That same book. So it's out there. People are aware of what we're doing.
All right. So talking about this year, not talking about what you did in the past, but this year, because that's what's happening.
Yeah.
You're sitting in your office every day, you're writing this book, you're into it so far. You'll keep going for another month and a half. What are the top 3 themes that you're working on? Top 3 findings? Like, what are you finding interesting so far now that you're what are you like 30% done, 50% done? Where are you at?
I'm probably about a third done, and I want to say that I'm really inspired with what I'm coming up with in my understanding of these correlations. So the three major themes go as follow. One, we're living in a time where there's competing dual paradigms. Okay, on the one hand, we got this paradigm of destruction and war, and it really kicked off with Russia invading Ukraine, and now, of course, what's gone on between Israel and Hamas is just the next leg of it. So we got that parallel, and at the same time, we got the parallel of a technological communications renaissance. You know, AI, Chat GPT. I mean, these are things that are their availability and the application of it is increasing exponentially every day. I mean, it's incredible what's going on here. So we got a renaissance in technology, and we've got the threat of war and threat of human lives in danger. The intensity and the speed of these evolving paradigms, I see, is accelerating to 2025 to 2026, when we reach what we call the Aries vortex. I'm not going to go into what that means here. It's too much explanation, but it's a planetary configuration involving the four outermost planets in our solar system, which are creating a funnel that comes right down to Earth in 2025, 2026. And then we're going to emerge on the other side of this funnel, on the other side of this paradigm, which I think represents tremendous opportunities of the promise of the technology revolution that's also going on right now. So I'm very, very excited about that. And the other themes, of course, have to do with the financial markets. I mean, every year I cover, and my assistants cover, my associates cover, the outlook for financial markets like the stock market, gold, silver, currencies involving the US dollar, Japanese yen, Swiss franc, euro, crude oil, grain prices, and Bitcoin. And, you know, our traders and our investors are extremely interested in that part of the book. So these are the main themes of this year's book.
I think as someone like myself, I can understand a little bit more of the financial world. That's where my background came from. And that's, you know, I want to know, of course, where to invest, how to grow my own portfolio. But to that other side, you talk about the geocosmics, you talk about astrology, and to someone like me who doesn't study it, it's intimidating. It's hard for me to pick up a book like this, and it's 200 pages, and think that something like this is going to make sense to me. The closest I've gotten to reading one of your books was this past chapter we sent out, this first chapter of Forecast 2023. That's the first time, even though, for those of you who don't know, I manage this business, I'm your daughter, but still, astrology intimidates me. I think there's a lot of people who read this chapter that you sent out and said, whoa, this guy's got something to say. And I think I can understand this, even though I don't have a background of astrology. I don't have years and years of experience like Ray does. So to someone like me who doesn't understand and have a formal education in astrology, am I going to be able to understand the rest of this book? Because I'm looking for some kind of compass to help guide me right now during this time. There's a lot going on, and that's what that chapter made me feel. Is this book going to help me understand in words that I can read?
Well, you understood that first chapter of last year's book that we sent out.
Yeah, that was easy to digest. That was one chapter.
That was one chapter, but they're all like that. It will identify what are the configurations going on. It will give the history of those configurations so you can kind of put it in reference historically. And then it explains how I, with my understanding of these studies, see it manifesting. And those are in layman terms. Every chapter ends with a summary of what's going on as I see it, as I recalled it in the book. So in answer to your question, will you be able to understand it? Yeah, you'll be able to understand it. You understood that chapter we sent out. And that's what you're going to get with all the chapters. So yes, you will be able to understand it.
Okay. And that makes me feel better about what you're writing. That's not going to go over the average person's head. I don't need to go have this deep years and years of understanding and study of astrology to still be able to read this 200-page
Well,
book.
let me ask you this. I mean, this is the first time you've read any of my books, and I've been
We're
your
gonna get a
father
lot
your
of
entire
feedback on
life.
that one. Maybe we should redo this video.
You've never read any of these books, and that's the first one you read, and you understood it. So let me ask you this. If we get at least 2,000 people watching this video, will you read Forecast 2024?
Who's gonna hold me accountable for this?
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of surprised that after all these years, it's the first time you read a forecast book that
A lot
I've
of
written
reading.
all
Okay,
your life.
okay,
But
fine.
I want
Yeah,
you
because
to,
I
I want you to
understood
read
the
the next
chapter.
year now because
Okay.
you're interested.
Okay, if we get 2,000 people to watch this video, I'll read it. I'll give my
Okay.
opinions on it. I'll break it down. I'll tell people if it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. How about that?
Yeah, and then tell me what I need to do to continue to improve it in the years ahead because I want to get to 50 years and beyond, and we're getting
I will
close.
read it. I will give it a critical review.
Okay, you're on.
And if
Very
I
good,
can't
Ellie.
understand it, you'll hear from me.
I'm sure I will.
Okay. Any other things you want to share about this book you're writing? Because I know you give small tidbits in the free weekly forecast, and that I do read. But anything else before you go back into write the remaining 60% of your book?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a fantastic book for not only the information in parts, but it's a great reference book because it has an astrological or planetary calendar in the back. And it has it breaks down how I see each season, winter, spring, summer, fall. But the most exciting part for me is it's always those first 50, 60 pages where I'm looking at the big picture. I'm trying to see the forest through the trees. That's the problem we have as astrologers. Sometimes we get hung up on this aspect or that aspect, and we miss the bigger thing that there's a cosmic ballet, if you will, going on that's constantly changing. And this is such an important time now because it's forming this funnel coming right down to Earth in the next 2 or 3 years. And we're living in this remarkable time when this intense energy is unfolding. And I just can't wait to see how it unfolds and how we come out of it. I think it's going to be a very, very exciting time coming up.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your time today. The pre-sale
Welcome.
event's going on to the end of October. If someone pre-orders the book, do you have a chapter ready? We could send them a pre-release chapter.
Yes, I do. I think we can send the first chapter of this year's book if you wish.
Okay. All right. I will hold you to that. You go finish that chapter.
All right. We'll send it out probably in about a month. Okay.
Okay. That works. All right. Thanks for your time today.
All right. You're welcome, Ellie. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.